You feel it before you can name it. A dull pressure behind your eyes, a tightening at the base of your skull, something that starts as nothing and then, slowly, becomes everything. You reach for the painkillers, drink some water, turn off the lights, and within an hour the pain fades. You move on, you forget it happened. But here's what you didn't know. That headache was not a malfunction, it was a message, and your brain was the one sending it. Here's the strange part. Your brain cannot actually feel pain. Let that sink in. The organ that processes every sensation your body has ever experienced, heat, cold, pressure, love, grief, has no pain receptors of its own. Zero. A neurosurgeon can touch the surface of a living brain during open surgery and the patient feels nothing. Nothing at all. So if the brain cannot feel pain, why does a headache hurt so much? The answer starts somewhere you would never expect. It starts with your blood vessels. Wrapped around the blood vessels inside your skull is a dense network of pain-sensitive nerve fibers. These fibers belong to a branch of the trigeminal nerve, one of the most complex sensory nerves in the entire human body. When something irritates or stretches those blood vessels, the trigeminal nerve fires, and then your brain interprets that signal the only way it knows how. Pain. This is the foundation of what scientists now call the trigeminovascular system, and it is at the center of almost every headache you have ever had. But the story gets more complicated, because not all headaches are the same, and the mechanisms behind each one reveal something extraordinary about how your brain monitors and regulates its own environment. Take the most common type, the tension headache. You have had one, probably many. A band-like pressure wrapping around your skull, tightening through the afternoon, worse when you are stressed or tired or staring at a screen for too long. For decades, scientists believed tension headaches were caused by muscle contractions. The muscles around your scalp and neck tightening, squeezing, creating that familiar vice-like sensation. It seemed logical. It seemed obvious. It was mostly wrong. Research published in the journal Cephalalgia, led by neurologist Lars Bengtsson at the Danish Headache Center, showed that muscle tenderness alone does not explain the full pain profile of a tension headache. What Bengtsson and his team found was that people with chronic tension headaches have a sensitized pain processing system. Their brains have become more reactive, more vigilant, more ready to interpret ordinary signals as threats. In other words, the brain itself turns up the volume. This is called central sensitization, and it is one of the most important concepts in modern pain science. Here is how it works. Your nervous system is not a fixed, static machine. It is adaptive. It learns. When it is exposed to repeated pain signals over time, it can lower its own threshold for firing. Pathways that once required a strong stimulus to activate can now be triggered by almost nothing. A slight change in posture, a few hours of broken sleep, a skipped meal. Your brain has learned to be afraid of pain, and so it creates it. Now consider migraines, because if tension headaches are complex, migraines are in another category entirely. A migraine is not just a bad headache. It is a neurological event that can last between 4 and 72 hours and involves not just pain but nausea, extreme sensitivity to light and sound, and in about a third of patients, something called an aura. An aura is one of the most bizarre phenomena in all of human neurology. Approximately 30 minutes before the headache phase begins, some migraine sufferers experience visual disturbances, zigzag lines, flickering lights, blind spots that slowly expand across their visual field. Others feel numbness spreading across their face. Some temporarily lose the ability to speak. For centuries, no one knew what caused it. Then in 1944, a Brazilian neuroscientist named Aristides Leo discovered something extraordinary while studying rabbit brains. He found that a wave of intense electrical activity could sweep across the cortex, followed immediately by a wave of near-total electrical silence. The neurons fired all at once and then went quiet for minutes. He called it cortical spreading depression. It took another 4 decades before researchers confirmed that this was exactly what happens in the migraine brain. The aura is cortical spreading depression, a slow wave of electrical shutdown, traveling across your visual cortex at about 3 millimeters per minute, temporarily disrupting whatever function lives in the tissue it passes through. When the wave passes through the part of your cortex that processes vision, you see zigzag lines and flickering light. When it reaches areas involved in sensation, your face goes numb. When it touches language regions, the words disappear. And in its wake, the trigeminovascular system lights up. Blood vessels dilate, the trigeminal nerve fires, the pain begins. This is a migraine, not a vascular problem, not a muscle problem, a brain state, a shift in the fundamental electrical behavior of your cortex. But why does it happen at all? Why would the brain do this to itself? This is where modern research gets genuinely provocative. A team led by neuroscientist Rami Burstein at Harvard Medical School has spent decades studying the migraine brain, and their findings have reframed how scientists think about the condition entirely. Burstein's work showed that migraine is not random. The brain of a migraine sufferer is fundamentally different from a non-migraine brain. It is more excitable, more reactive to change. Changes in sleep patterns trigger it. Hormonal fluctuations trigger it. Changes in barometric pressure trigger it. Bright light, strong smells, skipped meals, dehydration, all of it feeds into a system that is already running closer to the edge. Burstein describes the migraine brain as operating closer to a threshold. Most of the time it manages. But when enough triggers stack up, when the system gets pushed too far, it tips over. The cortical spreading depression begins, and your day is over. What this means is that migraines are not attacks that come from nowhere. They are the result of a brain that has been accumulating stress, in the broadest possible sense of that word, until it cannot hold it anymore. Your migraines started long before the pain did. Now here is the counterintuitive part, the part that changes how you should think about all of this. For years, the reflex response to a headache was to reach for a painkiller, immediately, as fast as possible. Stop the pain before it starts. And while that works in the short term, researchers discovered something troubling about using pain medication too frequently. It is called medication overuse headache, and it is now one of the leading causes of chronic daily headache worldwide. When you take pain-relieving medications, even over-the-counter ones like ibuprofen or acetaminophen, more than 10 to 15 days per month, your brain adapts. The same central sensitization that turns up the volume on pain signals is triggered by the medication itself. Your threshold drops. You become more sensitive. You need more medication. The headaches come more often. You were treating the symptom, and the treatment became the cause. This is not a reason to never take painkillers. It is a reason to understand what you are actually working with. A headache is not just a headache. It is information. It is your brain telling you something about the state of your body and your nervous system in that moment. Hydration affects it. Blood sugar affects it. Sleep quality affects it. Sustained muscular tension in your neck and shoulders affects it. The relationship between stress, cortisol, and trigeminovascular reactivity is well documented, and it runs in both directions. Stress causes headaches, and chronic headaches elevate stress hormones, which lowers the threshold for the next one. The loop feeds itself, unless you interrupt it. Researchers, including neurologist Peter Goadsby at King's College London, one of the world's leading headache scientists, have shown that the most effective long-term strategy for reducing both tension, headaches, and migraines is not pharmaceutical. It is behavioral, regular sleep at consistent times, consistent meal timing, hydration throughout the day, aerobic exercise performed regularly, stress regulation through whatever practice you actually maintain. These are not lifestyle suggestions. They are neurological interventions. Each one reduces baseline trigeminovascular excitability. Each one pushes your brain further from the threshold. Each one makes the system less likely to tip. There is also emerging evidence for something called biofeedback, a technique where you learn to consciously monitor and regulate physiological signals like muscle tension and skin temperature. Multiple controlled trials have shown that biofeedback reduces migraine frequency as effectively as some preventive medications, with no side effects. Your brain is not a passive victim of headache. With practice, it can become part of the solution. So here is where you are now. The next time you feel it, that familiar pressure, that tightening, that dull weight behind your eyes, you know more than you did before. You know that your brain cannot feel pain, but that it sends it. You know that the blood vessels wrapped in nerve fibers are doing the signaling, and that the trigeminal nerve is the messenger. You know about cortical spreading depression and what it looks like from the inside. You know that the threshold for pain is not fixed. It shifts, it learns, it adapts to everything you do and don't do. You know that the headache did not start when you felt it. It started hours before, maybe days before. In 100 small decisions your body was tracking even when your mind was not. That pressure behind your eyes is not a malfunction. It is your brain, finally loud enough that you have to listen.
I'm Neuromath. I share real stories in the world of neurosurgery and critical care. Subscribe for more medical stories that reveal what can happen inside the human brain.